Whoa, what's up, y'all? Good coffee. All right, so today we're going to talk about something pretty quickly, and we're going to try and keep it as apolitical and nonpartisan as possible. So today we are going to be talking about the difference between a conservative and a liberal. Now, all around the world today, people are not wanting to call themselves liberals because, well, there's a lot of stigma to being a liberal these days. You know, liberals are the crybabies, right? They're the ones that don't think right. They think with their emotions. They lead with their hearts. And that's what they do. Well, I want to stop that image for you. And I want you to realize what a true liberal and a true conservative are. Now, a true liberal and a true conservative have nothing to do with politics. What are you talking about? Yeah, it's true. A liberal person and a conservative person, that doesn't have anything to do with politics. It has everything to do with your personality. Now, see, a conservative type of person is a person who conserves, and a liberal is someone who's liberal. Now, how does that work in a person's personality? Well, it's quite easy. You know, a liberal type of person is much more apt to try new things, to change things up a little bit, to experience, to try and get new experiences under their belt and try to do things slightly different. It has nothing to do with politics. Same with a conservative. You know, you think about a person who's conservative, they're reserved. You know, they're not so much outward with who they are all the time. They save their money more. You know, they don't go for frivolous things so much. Now, the thing is with conservatives and liberals is that somewhere along the line, this became to mean some sort of a political ideology. Now, the reason why most liberals are Democrats and most conservatives are Republicans is because that just fits that ideology, that political ideology anyway. See, with a liberal Democrat, for instance, you have ideas, and they want to put policies in place that protect like new ideas, you know, like emotional thoughts. Where the Republicans, on the other hand, they seem to be more or less interested in keeping the status quo, not changing the laws too much, and protecting what is already there. So you have the liberals on one side, which, you know, they're the ones who kind of come up with new ideas and they strive to change things, not because they have to, but because, you know, sitting in one spot means that you don't move forward, you know? So there's not a lot of progress when you're too conservative. This makes sense, right? So there's the big divide here, is that, you know, you have the liberals who are thinking of like different things. They're thinking outside of the box. And then you have conservatives who want to stay true to what works and what's good. Now, this is great. And in my opinion, everybody should have a fair mixture of liberal and conservative sensibilities. Like, for instance, I consider myself more of a liberal kind of mindset just because that's how I've always been. I'm not the type of person who likes to sit back and hold on to old ideas just because they worked. You know, I challenge that. I challenge the status quo, or I challenge ideas, or I challenge the way things are done and how things are made and whatnot. Because I think that there's always a better way to do something. That's my drive as a liberal-minded person. The conservative is more apt to say, well, you know, this is working already. Why do we need to change it? No, you know, this is the way my father and his father did it. This is how this is why, you know, my father's father's father did it this way. And that's because they figured that was the best way to do it. Why change that? I mean, you know, you're looking at generations of doing it a certain way. Why would we change that? Why would we do anything drastic here? And from my liberal approach, I say, you know, it's not that they did anything wrong per se, but that maybe if we understand the levels of technology and societal norms and things like this, that we can actually come up with something that's slightly better, if not way better. But that's not to say that as a liberal-minded person, I'm just going to start changing laws and policies because of some crazy ideas. No, we need to be able to have both sides be present. That's where the whole bipartisan concept comes together, where, you know, if a liberal idea is so freaking far out there, the conservative has to pull it back in. And if the conservative is just sitting there stuck and not moving, the liberal says, hey, move along. And this is a great dichotomy here. This is what you need to make a society and to make people, the best of who they are. We have to hold on to our conservative mindsets, but we also have to be able to challenge those for the betterment of whatever it is we're trying to accomplish. Now, this means that, like I'm saying here, a conservative or a liberal has nothing to do with politics. It just so happens that predisposition of who you are and how you think, that characteristic leads you either towards the Democratic side or towards the Republican side. Now, to me, I think that you should be somewhere in the middle, no matter where you are. You should always be able to reflect upon themselves. This is the most important, I think, aspect in life, is to be able to have moderation, right? You have to be somewhat in the middle so that you can challenge those old ideas with new ideas. But if those new ideas don't make sense, we have to stay with the old ideas. You see how it works? So this is why it lends itself so well to political ideology, and why one side, the left or Democrat or whatever, is over here, and you have Republicans or the right on this side. And so that's where the divide starts to come from. Because people start to get tribal. They say, well, listen, your characteristics aren't good enough for my characteristics, ideas, and whatever. That doesn't make sense. All characteristics, all ideas need to have a place. And we need to be able to consider all of them, whether they sound crazy or fantastic, or they sound like old school and solid. We have to be able to challenge both sides. That's the whole point of having the distinction between a liberal and a conservative. Now, at the end of the day, I'm very conservative in certain aspects. For instance, fiscally, I'm very conservative when it comes to fiscal. I want to make my money go as far as possible, and that's it. And what do I have to do that? So that means I have to be very liberal in my ideas on how to be fiscally conservative. See how this all works? This all plays together. This is the important part. We need to be able to have both a liberal side and a conservative side so that we can balance the two and come up with the best ideas together. So if you're on the right and you say, oh, liberals are all freaking morons, they're crazy, they're all emotion and this and that. Well, it's just more the mindset. And the opposite is true too, where you think, oh, well, liberals are like, oh, these conservatives are just old school, antiquated, they're regressive and all this other stuff. And this is not true. None of that stuff makes any sense. It doesn't matter. It's just the tribalism that's talking for the people. And this is something we need to start making a distinction about, guys. We need to stop calling liberals as just assuming that a liberal is a Democrat and that a Republican or a conservative is a Republican, because it's just not true. And I think that anything has been shown now that we have SJW culture and we have all these different ideologies that are intersecting, right? And we have all this craziness coming from, well, they call it the left. And the people that are on the right are saying that you guys are all crazy. We're not going to follow anything that you say anymore. We just can't deal with your stuff because you guys are out there crying and not, thinking about facts and everything. I mean, that's the thing about conservative side, is that they're more solid in the facts. They want to look at the past, see how things work, what was there, what was wrong, whatever. And then the liberal side is more like, well, look, we got to do this because this is more right. This is better. Like those old school ideas, they're not so moral, I guess, in the new framework of society. So we are in a framework right now. We are in a specific framework in our society where we have to be able to use both opinions and weigh them out for the best ideas. That's democracy, right? The best idea wins, right? So how are we ignoring that? Well, the thing is, the really big problem, I'd say, is that there's this disdain between the opposite side. We're getting too tribal now. It's too tribal, right? So you see people that are on the right, they're calling the left names, and the people on the left are just calling the right names, like, so what is it accomplishing? Nothing. If you're a true liberal, you're not out there screaming, crying about, equality and all this stuff. No, you're coming up with ideas to make it better. If you're a conservative, you're not out there crying about, the policies that are being made. You're fighting them instead. You're not going out and picketing. You're not wearing pussy hats. You're not doing all the silly stuff. You're actually using your brain to fight, right? Well, that's what both sides of the aisle need to do. We need to use our brains, okay? We need to stop, if we're a liberal or whatever, we need to stop thinking, oh, you know what? There's so much magic in progression that we just got to ignore everything else. And that's what's happening these days. So, back to what I'm saying here. A liberal and a conservative have nothing to do with politics, although they end up leaning towards your politics. But that doesn't mean that it has anything to do with politics. So think about it from that perspective. Now, I call myself a liberal because that's what I am. It has nothing to do with politics. If I was to be labeled in any political spectrum, I would have to say that I'm a centrist, right down the center, and I lean left with my ideas, and I'm conservative in, when it matters for, my property and my things. It's very simple. And I really couldn't consider myself a Democrat or a Republican. And I definitely wouldn't consider myself a Democrat ever because of what they're doing these days. But that's a whole different conversation. So, that's what I'm talking about. All right? So, hopefully this inspires a conversation. Please, let's do this down below. And y'all be good.